Hello everyone, it's a pleasure, a privilege and an honour to welcome you to the World Magic Cup preview. Rich Hagon alongside Pro Tour historian Mr. Brian David-Marshall. BDM, we've got some of the best players in the world, we've got all the best Magic playing countries in the world, and we've got 3 amazing days ahead of us.
Yeah, absolutely. We're in Rotterdam, and 73 Magic playing nations descending on this beautiful city, by the way. Totally blown away by how gorgeous Rotterdam is. Descending on the city to become the 5th World Magic Cup champion. We've had no repeat champions, 4 countries, Chinese Taipei, Denmark, France, and Team Italy, not in that order, have all won in the past. Those 4 teams looking to repeat, but a lot of teams looking to make their mark on the Magic playing world by becoming the first time that the World Magic Cup goes back to their country.
All right, so if you are new to the World Magic Cup, welcome along. It is an event like no other. So before all the hype, before all the action, let's just walk you through what's gonna happen. So we start, here's up on the big board, BDM, walk us through Friday.
So if you had a chance to watch the coverage from Grand Prix Rotterdam last weekend, you may already be somewhat familiar with Kaladesh Team Seal deck. We're gonna do 3 rounds of that. Players are gonna get 12 boosters with which they're going to build 3 decks and sideboards. And these decks are really kind of cool. You're going to see people getting to actually build decks. They're, I think, on the power scale north of a draft deck. I think that they're getting into like mini constructed, like when you first played Magic and you bought 12 boosters and you were able to build a constructed deck. It's kind of like that. You actually start to see that. We're going to see 3 rounds of that, and then it's going to switch over to Team Unified Modern. That's going to be our constructed format.
So Team and Modern, I think most people are aware of that concept. What's this unified business? So
this is a format that means you can't just show up with 3 affinity decks.
Right.
But if you did, you'd really have to stretch your card pool. So what it means is if a single Scalding Tarn appears in one of the decks among the 3 decks you're building, it is now siloed in that deck and cannot be used in either of the other 2 decks. If you play a Lightning Bolt, then the Lightning Bolt and the Scalding Tarn are siloed in that deck, can't go in any of the other 2 decks. And that's, kind of, you can start to see how, if you look at the Modern format, how you could sort of piece together decks, okay, this Tron deck doesn't use any cards from this Affinity deck, this Skred Red deck, that one doesn't use any cards. But there's conflicts and there's sideboards, which gets really interesting. And you can't just go 2 Graph Digger's cages here, 2 Graph Digger's cages here.
Because they belong only in one place.
Absolutely.
Okay, however many you use, 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Just think of them as silos. Once you put one in there, that card cannot go in any other deck.
Okay. 48 of the 73 teams advance to day 2. Let's take a look back at the big board. What happens on Saturday? Day 2, 48 teams come in. We start whittling away. You
said this is not a tournament like any other, and this is not something we've seen before. 16 teams are safe for round 1. You can have pools of 6 teams. The top 2 teams in each of those pools will be safe. The 8 pools. The bottom 4 teams in each of those pools are going to play 1 round of single elimination. Okay. We're going to take those teams and get down to 32 players, 32 teams, I should say, by round 2, and then we will resume normal pool play for the rest of the tournament.
Right, so rounds 9 through 11, then, it's very simple. You win twice, you're through to the last 16.
Yeah, you don't play another. So if you win your first 2, you don't play that 3rd match. You're just done.
Right.
Got my 2 wins. I can go and,
relax.
Call my girlfriend at home, right?
Sure. Now, on the other end of that, if you're at 0-2, you're done. There is no way back from 0-2. The second loss is elimination.
It's essentially double elimination.
Right, which means in the last round, round 11, there you see on our big board, you're going to end up with 1-on-1s matched up all the way, again, in straight elimination Magic. And that gets us to the last 16. What happens then in stage 2, BDM?
So now we're going to be down to, we're going to get down to 4 pods, 4 pool play, and 2 teams from each pool are going to advance to our top 8, and it's going to be the same process. If you win twice, you're through, and if you lose twice, you're through.
Yeah. With a that's not going to confuse anyone. Yes. 0-2 out the door, 2-0, congratulations, and on we go to the top 8. which is going to happen on Sunday. Let's take a look at Sunday for you. Again, Team Unified Modern.
Yes, we're gonna play. Teams will be playing the same decks. You might see. I'm not sure actually if where
so
the decks are
players
gonna end up.
can switch, but the decks have to sit in the same
seats. Yes.
So if Italy, for example, the reigning champions, have Affinity in seat A, Infect in seat B, and Banteldrazi in seat C, they can change which of their 4 players play in those 3 seats.
Right.
But it will still be Affinity in A, Infect in B, Banteldrazi
and I'm curious
in
to
C.
see if there's any metagaming that goes on as to, if people start to try to predict where decks are going to end up.
One very important note is that unlike recent Pro Tours, where we've shown you 2 quarterfinals and then 2 quarterfinals, here it's best 2 out of 3 within each match and best 2 out of 3 to create the team win. That means we're actually going to show you every quarterfinal in its entirety on Sunday. So you will see 7 full matches of Magic, the 4 quarterfinals, the semi-finals will go back to back as you'd expect, and of course the World Magic Cup final. So Sunday is going to be just epic. All 3 are going to be great, but who's going to be in there? So BDM, if we've got to have a top 8, why don't we come up with 8 teams that, at least on paper, look like they've got a good shot at going deep into the tournament?
Absolutely. There's no shortage of teams with pro experience, with world team competition experience, and Hall of Fame experience. It's hard to get a team that's going to light up the room. Shota Yasuoka just coming off of a Pro Tour win. Kenji Samura, also a Hall of Famer. He won his last WMCQ within his country to secure a spot.
Right.
He said, you know what? That guy's a Hall of Famer. He said, you know what? I've been learning a lot from Shota Yasuoka, playtesting with him, which is kind of crazy. He lost, actually, in the second WMCQ to Toru Takashita in the semifinals.
Yeah, the interesting thing there is whether Kento Arita, Toru Takashita, they have 1 Pro Tour each. It's, not a Pro Tour top 8, a Pro Tour start each.
Takashita does have a Grand Prix top 8 in 2003.
Yeah, so one of them probably needs to step up, but a great 1-2 punch for Japan. How about Slovakia? Let's take a look. They have a ton of history in the game. You've got Ivan Flock, the captain, Patrick Surab. Now, why do I know that name?
2010 Team World Champions. Before the World Magic Cup, there was a Team World competition that took place at the old World Championships, and Ivan Flock said the biggest accomplishment in his career at that point was winning for Slovakia at the Team World competition. Both he and Patrick Surab were on that team. As a third player, Matej Zadelkai,
Pro Tour finalist.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
multiple
absolutely.
Pro Tour top 8s. And you talk again. There's going to be a player like this on almost every team where you're like, someone, who do we not know? And Milan Nizmansky is one of those players, but someone who does have Pro Tour experience.
Okay, absolutely. Why don't we stay around Europe for a while? This is a global competition, but we'll group the Europeans together for you. How about France? Now, this is one of the teams that, as you say, BDM, they've already won at this tournament with their captain, Rafael Levy, as the captain.
In the Netherlands. It was in Amsterdam.
Right, absolutely.
Rafael Levy, the Hall of Famer, Jeremy Desani, Pro Tour champion, Player of the Year, Kevin Savillon, and Guillaume Perbet. These are 2 players who don't have a ton of Pro Tour experience.
But very good at GP level.
Some Pro Tour experience, some GP experience, and are both pretty proficient with a modern deck, according to their team captain.
Let's stick with another winner now. How about the Danes from the famous Dane Blast in Nice in 2014? Captain that day, Martin Muller. Starting to see a bit of a pattern here, BDM.
Yeah, Martin Muller, returning champion. Also on the team when he won, Simon Nielsen. So he's also a World Magic Cup champion. He is the Dane Blaster, as he referred to himself in an interview. 2 players, Anders Gottfriedson and Asger Lundblad, who are really hoping to follow in the footsteps of Simon Nielsen. Simon Nielsen, a gold pro now, someone who had not played on the Pro Tour before he played in the World Magic Cup and won, and now is a fixture on the Pro Tour. And both of those 2 younger players kind of looking up to Simon Nielsen as a role model here in terms of being able to catapult themselves to the next level.
Now, it's so hard to defend the title because you don't necessarily get to come back. It could be anyone winning your WMCQs. Who are the defending champions? They're Team Italy. Let's take a look. How have they done? Have they assembled a squad, Brian David-Marshall?
Absolutely they have. Alessandro Casamenti has a couple of Grand Prix top 16s. He's the sort of least known player here. Andrea Mengucci, of course, the champion from the World Magic Cup last year. Not as the captain, though, it was Marco Camiluzzi. Alessandro Portaro, do you remember when Estradi won Pro Tour Philadelphia? Alessandro Portaro was in that top 8 as well.
And what was the format of that?
Modern.
The first ever modern Pro Tour.
And by the way, Mattia Rizzi, Gold Pro.
3 Grand Prix top 8s to his name. Italy have a great chance. They think they've got a great chance of at least getting as far as Sunday. Once you're in the top 8, who knows? You have to have 3 sets of good matchups. Things have to go your way. But they have a great shot at going deep into the tournament. All right, enough of Europe. Let's go across the Atlantic to Canada.
Well, this is another team that is, highly favored here. I think if you're starting to look at teams, Alexander Hayne playing on the team for the 4th time, 2nd time as captain. Jacob Wilson, someone we talked about modern Pro Tour experiences, someone with 2 modern Pro Tour top 8s. And when I talked to Alexander Hayne, he said he's actually the 4th most experienced modern player on his team.
Oh, wow.
Jacob Wilson, obviously tons of experience, but Brian Sue and Felix Say both play a lot in the face-to-face modern open series that takes place in Canada and have both won and been very successful there.
Okay, so that's Team Canada. What about Team Brazil? Let's take a look. Now, I would expect Paulo Vitor Dama da Rosa to be on this team, and there he is. He is the captain, alongside Thiago Saporito, big name pro, and then in the middle there, Patrick Fernandez, Alex Rodriguez, the 2 we know a lot less about, to be fair. No PTs, no WMC experience. So this is very much one of those team dynamics. Can 2 great players make 2 good players into something special? Yeah,
absolutely. It's really, we call it a World Magic Cup, but it's really a crucible. It really is, because you do see, again, players, making that leap to the Pro Tour level from this tournament.
So that's Brazil. How about Team New Zealand? Let's take a look at them, and this is highlighted clearly by Jason Chung.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the best players to come out of New Zealand. Zen Takahashi, a good friend of his, someone who's had some success in the past year on the Pro Tour. Matthew Rogers, Caleb Gittins. This is a team that Jason Chung, I had a chance to take the train with him to Grand Prix Rotterdam. And he was very, very excited about the team, felt really good about the camaraderie. These are players, he says, if I could have handpicked a team for the World Magic Cup, this is the team I would have handpicked.
Well, before we move away from the teams, you and I have a little bit of business to conduct. We'll be back in just a moment. England versus USA, the annual thing. What do you reckon this time?
Well, you know what? It is hard to, you've got your work cut out for you. We have Owen Turtenwald returning to the U.S. national team. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's the player of the year. He's the U.S. national champion. He is the mother of dragons, as we said at the last Pro Tour.
Right.
And you know what? He's got a really good team to work with here. And, Kevin Jones is someone who could be a secret weapon when it comes to the modern format. Paul Yim is someone who's done very well, works with Team East-West Bowl and has had some success on the Pro Tour. And Lee Marino, haven't had a chance to meet him. I did talk to him briefly, and I'm excited to see what will happen with Team USA. I like our chances very, very much.
Okay, well, we're led by Eduardo Sanchkalik, who many of you will know from his Pro Tour top 8. And we've got a decent team. I know Graham McIntyre very well from Nottingham. At my local store, I know that the Chimera boys and girls will be cheering on Graham, representing Team England. We'll see. But I think Nice, where we both made the top 8, that's probably our high watermark.
Yeah, absolutely.
That might be a struggle this time. We'll see. But best of luck. Best of luck.
Yes, good games.
Die. Anyway, enough of the teams. How about the modern format? Because we're going to start with Team Sealed in Kaladesh, but you're all playing with Kaladesh at the moment. But if you don't know about modern, well, here's the really quick guide. So why don't we start with 4 modern decks and some signature cards. Cranial Plating belongs to...
That's the Affinity deck. We've seen that card for as long as it has been in print, just doing tons of damage to people very early in the game.
Glistener Elf comes from Infect. That's just about, can I get to 10 points of poison very, very quickly with every pump spell in the world? Yes, I can. Thought Not Seer.
Bant Eldrazi. Eldrazi has been a big player in Modern since They were released. Thought Nazi are a big part of it. And of course, Urza's Tower, pretty innocuous by itself. But if you find just the right sequence, a turn 3 Karn can be pretty brutal out of the so-called Tron decks.
Okay, so that's modern for you. But how about some more modern? Let's do some more. Let's go on and see what we've got next. We've got Abzan, Liliana of the Veil, kind of mid-range, lots of toolboxes, lots of cool stuff, lingering
She's
souls.
a cross mid-range all-star because obviously a big part of Abzan, but you know, Tarmogoyf could have very easily been Liliana of the Veil here for the Jund deck.
Okay, then you've got Dredge, one of the most unfair decks in any format, really, all concentrating on the graveyard with cards like Prized Amalgam. And then finally behind me, we've got Lightning Bolt. Has there ever been anything more efficient?
No, and it can go in a ton of decks. Naya Burn is the deck that has been kind of the big new deck up until Skred Red a couple weeks ago, so we'll see.
Okay, so let's go on. Let's give you even more modern, because there are more decks than just those 8. Here's Valakut the Molten Pinnacle. Well, that's in the red-green Valakut decks, of course, so Valakut basically just turns mountains into win conditions. That's the key bit for that one. What's Master of the Pearl Trident about?
You know what? 16 of the so-called lords. Creatures that make merfolk have +1/+1. You've got 3 different lords, and of course you have Phantasmal Image to copy whichever one of those you want to copy.
Lordy.
Yeah, and then Spreading Seas, Merfolk deck. This is often a pet deck for players, but it's also a deck that's done very well.
Death Shadow, well, that belongs in the Death Shadow aggro deck, because you're being aggressive, and it's got Death Shadow in. It's clever, that.
Yeah, usually you're trying to get your opponent's life total down, but sometimes with this deck you're trying to get your life total down low before you're starting to attack your opponent's life total.
And finally, the combo deck from hell, or heaven, depending on how you view it, Ad Nauseam.
There but for Angel's Grayskull Eye.
Ad Nauseam. That's just 12 of the decks in Modern. We could have given you another 24. That's why Modern is so unique and so special. And it's part of the reason why this tournament is so special. We can't wait to bring it to you. You're going to have Marshall Sutcliffe, Gabby Sparks, Tim Willoughby in the booth, alongside BDM, 2 fantastic experts.
Yeah, absolutely. Players who faced off against each other in the top 8 of a Pro Tour. Hall of Famer Luis Scott Vargas and Pro Tour champion Simon Gertzi.
Yeah, so a great team assembled, 73 great teams assembled. We can't wait to share the glory and majesty of the World Magic Cup with you. Don't you dare miss a thing. We'll see you first thing tomorrow for Kaladesh Team Sealed. Rich, BDM, saying bye.